So, I will presenting to you about the relationship between deforestation and climate change and how these two environmental issues work together to increase human heat stress. This research will cover on a case study in the Brazilian Amazon used as a climate model to stimulate the effect of converting tropical forests into savanna-like landscape which turn the green forest into the desert-like. Hence, will increase the local temperature and humidity to a level that are comparable to those predicted under the most severe global warming scenario. As a result, the impact of the impact of converting tropical forest into savanna will cause a lot of bad impact that will be discussed in this case study.
So, the background of our study is the Amazon rainforest plays a crucial role in regulating the global climate, particularly through its influence on temperature, humidity, and precipitation patterns. Over recent decades, increasing deforestation and climate change have posed significant threats to this balance. This study by Oliveira said that the removal of forest cover not only contributes to higher greenhouse gas emission (GHG) but also disrupts local evapotranspiration process, which naturally cool the region. So, the aim of this study is to guide policy and land management to reduce health risks and preserve ecological stability. For the next part, we have one research question and also three hypotheses. Our research question is how will future deforestation and climate change individually and in combination affect the risk of heat stress in the Brazilian Amazon? So, with this research question, our three hypotheses are firstly, climate change alone will significantly increase heat stress conditions across the Brazilian Amazon. Secondly, deforestation will also increase regional heat stress due to the reduced evapotranspiration and land surface changes. And lastly, the combined effect of climate change and deforestation will have a synergistic impact. These three hypotheses were tested using Earth system model simulation under different deforestation and greenhouse gas emission scenarios, providing a quantitative basis for assessing future heat exposure in the region.
Now, we move on to methodology use. The first one would be variables involved. Variables involved look at what factors are being tested, which is independent, what's being measured, which is dependent, and other influence, that is control. In the study, climate change and deforestation are tested for their impact on heat stress. Other environmental data like temperature and humidity are also included. Author use a good choice of variables, but it may miss real-world factors like population or infrastructure that also affect heat stress. The second methodology would be measurement. Measurement focus on how the study turned complex ideas like heat stress into numbers using tools or models. In the study, author likely use a heat index like WBGT based on model data like temperature and humidity to estimate future risks. Although measurement is a strong method, it may lack detail as it doesn't fully explain how they set his stress limits or adjust for different regions.
Based on the article, the author emphasized two key issues, which is Amazon savanization and heat stress. Amazon savanization refers to the transformation of the entire Amazon rainforest into a savanna, which is a hot and dry ecosystem. The impact of savanization is further intensified under global warming scenarios, leading to extreme increase in the wet globe temperature heat stress index. The interpretation of the results appears well-founded. The authors utilized the Brazilian Heat System Model (BESM) to conduct 6 experiments. The interpretation of the results appears well-founded. The authors utilized the Brazilian Heat System Model (BESM) to conduct 6 experiments, combine different land use pattern with climate scenarios. A bias correction is also applied to the outputs using ERA5 references data to promote consistency. Last but not least, the study assumptions are generally realistic with the context of the climate modeling. The scenarios in which the entire Amazon is replaced by savanna represent a worst-case condition. While this may not occur in full, it serves as a critical upper boundary to illustrate the severe consequence of unchecked deforestation.
So next, I will present about the limitation and recommendations. So for the first one, limitation. Heavy reliance on global climate model, for example like CMIP5, which may not capture local climate dynamics accurately. Next one uses only wet bulb globe temperature (WBGT), which doesn't consider individual factors like hydration, clothing, or acclimatization. And the last one is no direct connection between model stress and real health outcome. And for the recommendation, for the first one is use high resolution regional climate models (RCMs) to better stimulate local condition. Next, promote reforestation and afforestation as part of climate adaptation plans. And for the last one is encourage joint efforts between climate scientists, ecologists, public health experts, and policymakers.
So let's move on to critic elements. So we have two, which is the first one is positive element. And so positive element, we have comprehensive use of climate and health modeling. So the comprehensive use of climate and health modeling strengthen the work because of the study uses an advanced coupled ocean atmosphere land model, which is BASMOA 2.5, and it integrates it with the WBGT index, which is widely recognized for assessing health stress on humans. It also considers the social vulnerability index, which is actually to assess health risk in specific population. So this methodological breadth enhance the reliability and interdisciplinary relevance of the findings, especially in identifying potential risks in communities. So this approach does not suggest bias. In fact, it strengthens the generalizability by combining physical climate science with public health framework, making the findings applicable across different academics and policy domains. So to conclude, the use of comprehensive modeling improves the study's quality and usefulness. It is not only highlights the physical impacts of deforestation and climate change, but also connects them meaningfully to public health outcomes. So this makes the research a strong reference point for future climate health impact studies. So the second one is the negative element, which is unrealistic savanization scenario assumption. So the study assumes a complete transformation of the Amazon rainforest into savanna type of vegetation, which is a highly unlikely worst case scenario. This limits the study because it doesn't reflect more probable and partial deforestation scenarios. As a result, finding may exaggerate the projected heat strength exposure. So this does not indicate bias, but it does limit generalizability. Because the model scenarios is so extreme, its relevance to actual land use trends and policy planning is reduced. Moderate scenarios would have provided more practical value. Therefore, while the extreme assumption helps to understand the worst possible outcome, it limits the real-world applicability of the results. As conclusion, it are useful for understanding the potential risk, but they should not be used alone for policy without considering more realistic scenarios.
To conclude, this study shows that the increase of the risk of extreme heat stress, especially when combined with rising global temperature, will cause a lot of bad impact to our generation and to our environment. The conversion of forest into an open land not only disrupt the climate system, but also directly affect human health by pushing temperature to a dangerous level. Hence, by the end of the century, millions could be affected, and many whom live in community with limited resource to adapt will also be affected. And this finding also highlight to us that the urgent steps need to be taken to solve the problem involving the environmental issues, focusing on the deforestation to avoid the effect to the human health and to the environment itself. The study also emphasized that we need to take an action, not just only reducing the carbon emission alone, but also need to control and has a good policy involving our environmental issue. That's all from us. Thank you.